Indiana football dominates Nebraska this weekend, 56-7, and they are for real.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, hope you had a fantastic weekend, and it's pretty hard not to when you had Hoosier Hysteria, homecoming, and an absolute beatdown on the football field when Indiana took care of business against Nebraska 56-7. We're going to talk about all of that today. Plus, where does Indiana go from here now that Kurtis Rourke is out indefinitely? Not for the season, but for the time being. We'll talk about what can happen with that. Plus, we will talk about Hoosier Hysteria, go over what we saw, what we liked, maybe what we didn't like, all that later on in the show. But we got to start with what everybody's talking about. The fact that Indiana basketball is coming up. Yes, right? The season's coming around. Indiana basketball is something that we all want to talk about. We're all excited for. We all want to get hyped up and talk about Hoosier Hysteria, and got big recruiting things going on this weekend. But that's all taking a sidestep right now, because Indiana football is for real. This team is good. And I mean really, really good. And I know that we have talked about on this show so many times how talented they are, how different they are from a year ago, and how much we love head coach Curt Cignetti, right? Because he's proven to us, even before this game on Saturday, he's proven to us that he has what it takes. He knows how to win. Just Google him, right? He knows what he's doing. But this was the first real test this weekend when Nebraska came to town. Indiana was favored. It was on Big Noon Kickoff. You had the pregame show. I mean, everybody was ready to go and watch this game because the whole country wanted to see, is Indiana legit? Is Indiana football for real? And I think a lot of us, I told you on Friday in that show, I was nervous about this game because I just didn't know how it was going to go. Because let's just be real, games against UCLA and Maryland and Northwestern just didn't make me feel prepared for this game. I didn't know what we were going to see. And we saw exactly what we've seen all year. Dominating defense, high-powered offense, and just well-executed game plans from Indiana and their entire team and the entire staff. And you walk out of there with a 56-7 victory. People took notice of that. They took notice that you didn't just win, you dominated. They also took notice that you jumped on them early and never let up. Never, from the opening drive, you never let up. 7-0 after one. You put up 21 in the second, 14 in the third, 14 in the fourth. And you just put it on them, man. And Indiana's got it going on right now. And I think what I've noticed, I had a lot of people texting me over the weekend who are not Indiana fans. Okay, they just know that I am and know that about the podcast, and everybody's taking notice of what Indiana football is doing. I had people who watched them for the first time this weekend, and they said, man, Indiana's actually good. I just thought they were winning and beating bad teams. I just thought they were kind of getting lucky. The team's actually good. And I said, yeah, they're really, really good. Look at how they play and the execution that they have and just the IQ that they have. And, dude, there's some really good skill players on this team. I mean, I could pick, I'm thinking 10 or 12 guys off each side, I guess, total from offense and defense, and you could put them on a big-time team right now. And they would be playing at the same type of level. They would be playing the same way, just on a bigger team. But they're not. They're playing here And I think that's what the world saw this weekend, the college football world, that is, dude, Indiana's actually a good team. And they have everything in front of them. They win 56-7. They go from 16 up to 13 in the AP poll thanks to the win. Also, thanks to a couple of things moving in front of them. So we just keep moving up the rankings. We just quietly keep doing our thing. And we are so real and so good and so legit. And the world has taken so much notice. I'm sure you've seen this by now. ESPN's College Game Day is going to be right here in Bloomington coming up this weekend. And I think that is perfect. I've been calling for that. I've talked about that. How perfect is it for Coach Corso to come back to Bloomington in what I believe to be his final ride on College Game Day and them to have a chance to come to Bloomington? I understand that there's a lot of people on the outside that may say, Indiana, Washington, that's a terrible game. Why would you pick that game? Why would you do that? There's this game in the SEC happening that you could go to. Well, good thing about that show is it's not all about going to the best game. They've never been here. They've never been here. It's time for them to make a trip. And I think, and this is going off on a side tangent here, but I think they should make this Lee Corso's final show. Wouldn't that be so special? Wouldn't that be the perfect way to ride out on the to the sunset, is make this his final show in Bloomington, where we already know the turnout's going to be great. We know it's going to be insane. We just saw it. It's going to be huge this weekend for College Game Day. I just think it would work out really, really well. Regardless, the fact that they're coming shows that we're legit. 56-7 shows that we're legit too. And this team's rocking and rolling, man. I don't know what's going to get in their way. I really, really don't. I don't know what it's going to take to stop this football team, because they just do it so well on both sides of the football. Defense was playing good, did their job. They were in Rayola's grill all day long and doing exactly what they needed to do. You're not running on that Indiana defense, by the way. And then Indiana offensively, you need a passing down? Got it. Need a running down? Got it. Need a big play? Got it. They have everything we need to be a successful football team. Now, the concern is you do have Kurtis Rourke, who is now injured. And maybe that could get in the way. Maybe that could put all of this to a screeching halt if we're not careful. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked on Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked on Hoosiers is brought to you by ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a major difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on recording a podcast, going to work, doing my radio show without any worry. It truly is the way to go. Step 1, drink the pre-alcohol. For the best results, drink pre-alcohol and make it your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly by pacing yourself, hydrating, make sure you get good sleep, and then enjoy tomorrow. You're going to wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day and ready to go. Go to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. Welcome back into Locked on Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your first watch or your first listen each and every day. If you guys are looking for a way to support this show, because reminder, it is free to you every single day, Monday through Friday. If you're on YouTube, you can like the video that shares it out there to the world, lets other people find it. You can also, definitely want you to do this, comment down below your thoughts, your overall takeaways from a 56-7 win for Indiana football. Are you impressed? Is there something that you still want to see? Are you worried about Kurtis Rourke? I think we all are a little concerned here about Kurtis Rourke. So drop those comments down below. And then be sure, if you are not already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are growing. I want you to be a part of that. And I want you to become an everydayer. And that's the way you do it. It takes one click. You'll be notified when we post new episodes. And you'll become an everydayer. So do those things for me. It really does help us out here on the channel. And I do appreciate you supporting us. All right, so I asked you what could put this thing to a halt, right? What could slow Indiana football down? And 7 games in, it's not any opponent, right? There's no team that has slowed us down to this point. Unfortunately, the thing that we have been mostly fortunate in, the injury category, it's come back to get us. And it's Kurtis Rourke, our Heisman contending quarterback. Yes, Heisman contending quarterback. And I'm not just saying that, folks. You pull up what he did on Saturday before he got injured. 17 of 21, 189, 1 touchdown, did have the pick. But, man, the throws he makes are just so good. They're next-level throws. I'm serious. The windows he's finding, the balls that he places into the receivers, because he throws them, whether it's sideline routes or corner routes or post, whatever the case may be, he throws it in such a perfect spot to where his receiver is the only person in the world that can catch it. And grown man throws, I think is the way to describe it. I mean, throws that I'm telling you, people who scout for teams on Sunday afternoons are watching him. I'm telling you, they are. And he's playing extremely well. But we knew that he had the thumb injury in the middle of the game, and he ended up not playing in a lot of the back half. Now, didn't need him, thankfully, because he did his job. And Tayven Jackson came in, 7 of 8, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 100 quarterback rating, 99.9 quarterback rating. Tayven Jackson looked really good, and we're going to get to him in just a second. But I do think there is some concern with Kurtis Rourke. I know there were some things going around. Could be a fingernail, could be a jammed thumb, could be different things. Whatever the case may be, right? It's a thumb injury, and he's out indefinitely. They said, Indiana themselves said he's not out for the whole season, but he is out this weekend against Washington, which we're going to have an episode, I hope, coming up with Locked On Huskies, the Locked On Washington show with Roman Tomashoff. You've heard him on our Big Ten Squad episodes. We'll talk to him about what Washington's going to bring this weekend. But regardless, Indiana will not be bringing Kurtis Rourke. And I hate this for a few reasons. One, I hate it because Indiana's obviously really good when he plays. Indiana's undefeated when he plays. And I think in big-time games, you're going to need him, right? Michigan, Ohio State, you need him in those games. Can you survive a game against Washington without him? I would like to think so, right? I would like to think so. But we haven't seen that yet. I don't know. We haven't seen a situation where he had a bad game and got pulled or didn't play or whatever the case may be. So we're going to be in uncharted waters coming up on Saturday when we play Washington. Good news is, like I mentioned, Tayven Jackson actually looked really good. He looked extremely poised. He looked confident and made the plays he was supposed to. I know it was late in the game and it was already out of reach, but he still executed the offense perfectly and did exactly what he was supposed to do. And overall, I mean, heck, he even had a nice run in there too. 12 yards, I think? And he did what he was supposed to do as the backup. Even though the game was already done, basically over, he played well. And so I hope for at least you, the fans, it gives you a little confidence going into Saturday. I feel a little bit better, I guess. Not a whole lot because I wanted it to be Kurtis Rourke because, shoot, he's given us so much confidence. It's unbelievable. But I think Tayven Jackson showed that he is capable of getting by. And I think that's all we kind of have to have. The other reason I hate it for Kurtis Rourke is what I mentioned a little bit ago. Folks, he's making waves in the Heisman race right now. Legitimately, Heisman Trophy candidate Kurtis Rourke at Indiana. And yes, I guess missing one game against Washington, hopefully would not knock you out of that. But, man, you got guys like Ashton Jeanty who are just balling out at Boise State on the ground. And, yeah, I mean, you need every game that you can get. And I know that we have bigger aspirations. I'm sure Kurtis Rourke has bigger aspirations than just trying to win the Heisman Trophy. He wants to win championships. Indiana wants to win championships. We have flipped our brains into that mindset with this team. They are championship good. You saw it. The world saw it on Saturday afternoon in Bloomington. But it is something that's fun to talk about, and it's something that Kurtis Rourke deserves to be talked about in that conversation of a Heisman Trophy because he's playing that good right now. Look at his stats for the season so far in 2024. All right. He has a 67, almost a 68% completion percentage. He's thrown for apologies, looking at the wrong stat line. He's throwing for 75% completion percentage, 1,900 yards, so flirting with 2,000 already while completing 75% of his balls, right? He has 15 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, and his quarterback rating is 189. Let me say that again. 75% completion percentage, 1,900 yards, 15 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, and a 189 quarterback rating. The only quarterback that's playing anything better than him is Cam Ward at Miami. That's it. Kurtis Rourke is playing like the second best quarterback in America right now. And now he's going to be out for an unforeseeable amount of time. I don't know. We're going to find out. It's probably going to be a week-by-week cases with him, with that thumb. And good news is, again, Tayven Jackson played well. Also good news, the running game looked incredible on Saturday. That offensive line, man, shout out to them and give them all the credit because they are good in run blocking and pass pro. They're doing their job just beautifully. And, man, you saw Ellison and Lawton do whatever they wanted to do on Saturday. I mean, do whatever they wanted to do in terms of running between the tackles, getting outside to the edge. They played perfect football. And then on the defensive side for Indiana, while we're mentioning all of this, man, just open field tackling is there. Coverage downfield is there. Just disciplined defensive football. That's what you get with Indiana. And people are like, oh, they've only played Northwestern. How good can they be? They just shut down Dylan Raiola in that Nebraska offense, which, yes, has sputtered here as of late, but give Indiana's defense a ton of credit for that because they made their life hell all day long, from the defensive line to the linebacker spot, all the way to the corners and safeties. They had everything covered, everything. And Raiola made some throws. He did. They made some plays, but he couldn't do it consistently. They couldn't do it consistently because there's just nothing doing against that Indiana defense, man. They're like a wall at all levels, and nobody's been able to figure it out yet, right? Look at Nebraska's stats quickly, right? They went 300 total yards. Indiana had 500. They had 70 rushing yards. Told you they couldn't do anything. There was nothing they could do on the ground, which means Raiola had to throw it 46 times. He threw it 4, I think, maybe. He also was 28 of 44 with 3 interceptions because this defense is ball hawks. They're everywhere. They're full of dudes that just go and get the football, and that helps Indiana's offense because when they get turnovers, the offense converts that into points. Do you know how deadly that is? Do you know how crucial that is? That's what makes this team so stinking good. And then 5 turnovers to just the 1 for Indiana. Now, ball security was a little bit of an issue, but overall, only the 1 turnover, but you forced 5, and you're good to go. Indiana's good, folks. Indiana's for real. Start taking them seriously. Yes, there's concern with Kurtis Rourke being out, but Indiana football is legit. They've got Washington coming up this weekend. College Game Day will be here. Lots more to talk about this week on Indiana football. But we do have Indiana basketball that we need to talk about because Hoosier Hysteria happened on Friday night. We'll talk about what we saw, what we liked, and what we maybe want to see more of coming up on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is my go-to ticketing app, the only one I use, literally the only one on my phone that I use for sports, movie, theater, concerts, you name it, and they've got it. And their new feature they've got going on right now, it's called Game Time Picks, and it filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I use it. I've used it for several sporting events. I've also used it for a comedy show. I have family that have used Game Time for theater shows, right, in some of the bigger cities. And so everybody loves it. It's super easy, great prices, in and out. And it's just such an easy process to get what you're looking for using Game Time. Their all-in pricing is one that I always highlight because when you toggle this feature, it shows your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. And their lowest price guarantee, it guarantees that you get the lowest price or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you for being here again. Shout out to all of my everydayers because you're the ones that make the show go, man. You're the reason I'm here every single day, and I'm really thankful that you are here as well. If you're looking for your second watch or your second listen today, got 3 shows for you, okay? Locked On Big Ten with Craig Sheeman, Locked On College Basketball with Andy and Isaac, and then Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. Go check them out, put it in your rotation, and tell them that Jacob from Locked On Hoosiers sent you. All right, let's flip over to basketball. I know, crazy. Final segment, and we're talking basketball here. Hoosier Hysteria was this weekend. It was on Friday night inside of Assembly Hall. Kind of got the whole thing kicked off. You had the parade. You had Hoosier Hysteria. Then you had college football on Saturday. And I do want to say, and I told you this last week, but I do want to just kind of say this before we get into it. Do not dive overly deep into what happens here. Okay, yes, there are stats, technically, and we're going to go through some of them. Yes, it was a scrimmage. The men's game ended up in a tie, right? A couple of guys didn't play. Like, this was just to get them on the floor and to allow us to see them for a little bit. This is not something that we need to get overly excited about, and it's not something we need to be overly concerned about. It's just, it is what it is, basically. That's the best way that I can say it. It is what it is. Got to see the men and the women's team on Saturday or on Friday, that is, and really cool to see all of them. And you know, it's just something that I love Hoosier Hysteria for, is getting to see both programs getting the season kind of kick-started, right? It just seems like you just feel it now. You feel that college basketball is right around the corner when Hoosier Hysteria takes place. And so I got to see the women's team out there, Sydney Parrish doing her thing, and we'll talk more about the women's team as we go throughout this season. But on the men's side, I had a couple of guys who we were wanting to see play, but didn't. The highlights there, Trey Galloway and Ja'Kai Newton. That was a big question that I had on Friday in my top 5 was, will Ja'Kai Newton play? And he didn't. So keep that in mind. We'll see. I don't know. Conflicting reports on whether he's good to go or not. I don't know. I'm at this point with Ja'Kai Newton. He plays when he plays, and we'll talk about it when he does. That's basically where I am. Okay. Stats. I threw up air quotes for those of you on audio. There are officially stats for what this scrimmage held. It ended up in a tie thanks to Mackenzie Mbako doing whatever the heck that was at the end and somehow turn around, knocking down a 3, right? Good sign, I think. Maybe, I don't know. All right, here's some of the stats. All right, again, these are I don't know. Do you call these official stats? It was in a scrimmage. So let's say unofficial stats here. Oumar Ballo, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 2 assists. So nice to see him. They used him the exact way we thought they would use him, right? Just get it to the big man down low. Mackenzie Mbako had 12 points, so those two led the way for Indiana. Mackenzie had 12 points, 1 rebound, 1 steal, including the 3 there at the end. Renew, 6 points, 4 boards. Rice, 5 points, 2 steals, 2 assists. Liked what I saw from him in the limited action that we saw. Couple of others to highlight here. Luke Goody had 6 points, 5 rebounds. Let me tell you what, if Luke Goody can do that, if Luke Goody can give you 6 points, 5 rebounds, even maybe 8 to 10 points, watch out. Off the bench, are you kidding me? That would be deadly from Luke Goody. Carlisle had 2. Tucker had 4 points and 2 boards. That was nice. Hatton had 8 points. Cups had 2. Leo had 2, whatever. Overall shooting, Indiana went 5 of 20 from deep. They did hit all their free throws. Keep an eye on that. They did hit all their free throws. This was a team that a year ago, if it wasn't a guard, heck, even when it was a guard, they struggled shooting free throws. So that was good to see. But overall, I think we saw exactly what we thought we were going to see. You had good post play from Renew and Ballo. You had decent shooting from the outside. And you saw good command from the guards with Miles Rice and Cannon Carlisle. But I think you can also tell that there was not a ton of intensity here, right? There was not a ton of, I'm not going to say buy-in or commitment to this, but you just don't want to see anything crazy happen. And especially on the injury front, that's the last thing you want to see in something like this. It was fun, though. That's what I think I take away from it, is it was a fun event. Got to see the teams on the floor for the first time in legitimate action. And now we're ready. Now we're good to go. You've got scrimmages or exhibition games coming up here very, very soon. And the season starts in just a couple of weeks. And so takeaways from this, I don't know. I mean, yeah, they had a good time. It was fun to watch them. I was impressed by what I saw from Oumar Ballo. Nice to see him. He looked pretty good, though. Looked pretty healthy. Looked pretty, athletic. Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Remember, because we've had complaints about him and, oh, he's just out of shape and he can't get up and down the floor. I think he was fine. I think I didn't have any concerns there. And again, I think everybody meshed pretty well. That's something I talked about on Friday in my top 5 that I wanted to see was the meshing of players. You got to see a lot of the new guys, young guys, older guys, like everybody got to get some action here besides the ones that just didn't play at all. And so, no, I was impressed. I think I saw what I wanted to see. Now I'm ready to see some of these exhibition games, which are legitimate games. No, they don't technically count, but it's against other teams. That's what I'm ready for this Indiana basketball team. But I think you can tell as we wrap up here, they're really talented at all levels and have dudes on the bench that can come in and make a difference. And that's what I wanted to see. I saw that, and now I'm ready to see that in the season because I think the sky's the limit for this team. I really do. I think they're good enough to do whatever it is what we want them to do. And we got to find out if that's the case for 2024 and 2025. But Hoosier Hysteria was a success for the men and the women's team. And it wrapped up, or I guess it kicked off what was a really good weekend right here in Bloomington. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you being here, truly making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. If you're looking for a way to support the show, before we go, be sure you like the video. All right, that's the first thing on YouTube. Then comment down below. What are your takeaways from Hoosier Hysteria? More than what I said, less than what I said, not overly worried about it. Maybe you saw something that concerns you. Drop that in the YouTube comments down below. And then be sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. For all my audio listeners, be sure that you are following us over there and you turn on your notifications so you never miss a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers. We are back tomorrow. It's a big week, Hoosier fans. We have commitments coming this week. We have crossovers coming this week. All sorts of content coming your way on Locked On Hoosiers. So be sure you tune in right here every single day. We're back tomorrow. Until then, Hoosier fans, stay safe. I'll talk to you later.